Hello, everybody. Welcome to the conference Utility Cloud 2020, and of course, welcome to my session and to my presentation. I do hope you'll find it interesting and you'll find it useful. My name is Nedim Dedic, and today I'll try to provide a few tips on how to successfully introduce and establish cloud or cloud concept in any organization. It basically means I'll speak or I'll present the methodology on how to switch the organizational attitude towards cloud as a future-based concept to deliver physical IT infrastructures and to successfully enable digitalization. Before I start with my presentation, one information from organizers. Please, if you have any questions, please type them into the box on the side, and we will try, or I'll try to provide answers as fast as possible and as accurate as possible in a given circumstances. Also, before I start with my formal presentation, I would like to introduce myself shortly. As I already said, my name is Nedim Dedic, and I work as a lead enterprise architect at Salzburg AG. Salzburg AG is a regional utility company located in the beautiful city of Salzburg in Austria. What I do, I enable enterprise digital and information architectures. So, however, if you want to know a little bit more about me, I do invite you to visit my LinkedIn profile, or if you have any specific questions that you cannot find in my LinkedIn profile, please do not hesitate to write an email to me. And I'll try and I'll give my best, to be honest, to provide appropriate answer to your email if possible. So there are four aspects I would like to speak today about in my presentation. And of course, all four aspects are relevant for in the scope of methodology I would like to present today. The first aspect is how to establish the basis for organizational acceptance of the cloud. The second aspect is how to position the cloud as a tactical mean to support digitalization and digitalization strategies. The third aspect I would like to address today is actually how to integrate or incorporate cloud architecture as a permanent part of enterprise architecture, and the last but not least important is how to derive cloud strategy from enterprise architecture strategy or from enterprise strategy, and how to consequently derive cloud transition strategy from cloud strategy. However, before I start with explaining on how to establish a good basis for organizational cloud acceptance, I would like to speak a little bit about the reasons and causes that led to the need or to the situations where establishing the basis for organizational acceptance of the cloud is a sort of requirement. So, let us start. Many of you work in companies that already introduce or are currently trying to introduce the cloud concept. So I assume that most of you, especially those working in traditional utilities, had situations where the cloud or introducing the cloud faced specific challenges, such as critics questioning or even rejection of the idea. So why is that? From my opinion, there are several categories of reasons. Let us say that people would have different opinions and different views on the topic, which are mostly imbued with the fear of unknown. So the first category of reasons why people critique, question, or even reject the new concept is the fear of losing in-house jobs. So they might ask themselves, what will happen without people they used to do IT infrastructure? Will they be fired? So will they lose their jobs? Will they have less people generally? Will we as a company have less people generally? Do I have to learn new technologies? And what are those technologies? Do I have to get out of my comfort zone if I want to stay in the company? Are we getting new employees? Am I no more important as I used to be for the company? So that is the first group of the reasons why people critique, question, or and might even reject the new concepts such as the cloud. The second category of the reasons is a fear of losing data access exclusivity and data sovereignty. So they might ask themselves the questions such as what will happen with my data? Where they will be stored? In which country? In which region? Which city? How does physical environment looks like, etc., etc. How will they be stored? So, and will they be encrypted? Are any zoning or microsegmentations considered, etc. So who will have access to the data? Vendor, we, third-party developers, who? So what if somebody steals? What if somebody steals the data? So how can we cope with situations, with those situations? How secure are data? So what if connections to the vendor fails out? What we're gonna do then? And what we're gonna do in those situations? What about legal issues such as EU GDPR? So many other questions that belong to this category. There are, however, other categories for questioning and rejecting the new concepts. One of the common is when we speak about the cloud. One of the common category of the reasons is fear of cloud vendor lock-in. So the people would ask, or they would assume that vendor could lock us in. So we have to then assumptions such as we have to go with the price if vendor decides to change it would come in. So we could be limited by technology supported by the vendor. We could be limited by solutions supported by specific vendor, etc., etc. And at the end, and probably most prominent among IT people is fear of losing control over systems and applications. So the question, will we have any control of our applications and systems? Those are all categories of the reasons that might pop in. So why is that? Why is that in general? Why people ask such questions? Before I provide few tips on how to establish the basis for organizational acceptance of the cloud, I have to explain those challenges and the reasons at the first place to better understand the way of establishment. So as I said earlier, why is it? So why do people ask such questions? Simple answer: because they are required in such situations. The people are required to move from their comfort zone, where they know the environment, where they know the consequences of their actions, and they actually know what to expect. And we are forcing them to move to the zone where they don't know nothing about. So actually, we are actually forcing the people to move from the comfort zone to the fear zone. So, and that sometimes it can be unpleasant experience. People are faced with unknown environment as soon as they get out of the comfort zone. For example, when you introduce a new concept such as a cloud, you'll probably be faced with a group of skeptics and detractors instead of enthusiasts. So in addition to enabling the cloud, we have one additional task to get as a cloud, of course, as a cloud responsible or as a cloud architect. So as a cloud architect, in addition to enabling the cloud, we have one additional task, and this task is basically to get people out of the comfort zone to the learning, or even better, to the growth zone. So in the comfort zone, of course, people feel safe and in control, so they always ask themselves, why should I move to unknown place? So I have no idea what's happening there, it's unsafe, I don't want to move there. But it's our responsibility to explain them why are we moving there, and what are the benefits of such moves. So basically, we have to make, we will, as I already said, we will be faced with numerous detractors, and we have to switch attitude of those people from detractors to promoters. So now let us see how can we make cloud promoters from cloud detractors. So just this second, I have to, okay. So there are actually four main steps, or four main processes that have sub-processes when we are converting people, so from cloud detractors and cloud skeptics to cloud promoters. The first step is, of course, to explain what it's all about. What is cloud all about? Why do we need a cloud? What brings cloud? What benefits cloud has? Where is the cloud? So how do we move to the cloud? who moves to the clouds, etc. Those are all questions that we would probably have explained several, if not 100 times, even to the same persons. This is a new topic, and people need some time to learn what it's all about. So we need to repeat activities from the explain box several times. So we will be confronted with the situations where the people would ask us the same questions all over again, and we do not. And it's not, from my point of view, it's not proposed to critique those people, but to be patient and to answer and to provide and to try to provide the best answers to those people. The second box is to educate. So when we explain to people what is cloud all about and why do we need it, we need to constantly educate the people about the cloud. It's not sufficient only to explain what is cloud all about, but we need to educate the people. We need to, for example, we need to make presentations, in-house presentations. We need to make in-house workshops. We have to send people to conferences, to appropriate conferences where they can learn a little bit more about cloud, where they can have experience, where they can hear experience from other persons. We have to send them to seminars. We have to send them to trainings. We have to even. It's quite proposed to make a tours. For example, with your people to visit specific data cloud center. So, and this is as well the activity that we need to. This is as well activity that we need to do all over again. So, the third part of the trip from cloud detractors to cloud promoters is to engage every stakeholder relevant to the cloud story into the whole process. So we have to ask opinions. We have to ask for opinions from the stakeholders. We have to include them into decision-making process. We have to delegate a real task relevant for the cloud to them for them to make them. So we have to let them speak. We have to let them to actively speak about the cloud future in the company. So. And the fourth aspect is to enable, is enable, where we actually enable people to experience the cloud, to work with the cloud, and to deliver with the cloud. Only when we conduct all those four processes in the scope on the trip from cloud detractors to cloud promoters, we would probably have a quite large group of cloud promoters in our company. So, but you have to be careful. You have to work. You have to be careful. Even after skepticism could prevail. So, in that scope, you basically need just a few skeptical persons to be forced to get back to the starting position. So. When I say starting position, I mean the beginning of the story, where you need to explain the meaning and the benefits of the cloud once again, and to justify the whole story about shifting to the cloud. So once again. So, and of course you want to avoid this. This can be quite annoying, to be honest, and quite frustrating. So you need to incorporate or to embed some sort of mechanism to prevent such scenarios. So you have to incorporate mechanism to prevent getting back to the starting position. So there are two tips from my point of view. First tip is, of course, to define some kind of formal decision. So, for example, after first wave of approval to go to the cloud, you should sit with the decision maker, with the decision makers in your company, and you should define some form of short formal document that would be signed by CEO, president, board of directors, or similar roles. And for example, this formal decision, in this formal decision, you should define and agree that your company goes to the cloud. So in that case, when somebody comes and say, I'm skeptical, cloud is not quite good decision, etc., etc., you can say, hey, check this out, we have already signed formal decision to go to the cloud. The second mechanism to prevent getting back to the starting position is to go public. Publish public with appropriate media so that your company decided to go to the cloud. Present it as a technological improvement or future-based strategical decision. So if you have those two mechanisms, it would be extremely hard for the people to force you to get back at the beginning of the story. So this is all about. This is all about. Those are all tips in regard to establishing the basis for organizational acceptance of the cloud. So let us now speak a little bit about positioning the cloud as a tactical means to support digitalization strategies. So these are few tips that might be interesting for you in the case that you are cloud responsible or cloud architect in your company. So I'm a huge fan of the cloud, to be honest, and I promote the concept anywhere and anytime I can. So I see it as a concept to deliver future-based IT infrastructures and one of the foundations to successfully digital utilities. It is a tool that definitely makes our lives and our jobs easier. However, because of its possibilities, the cloud can easily become some sort of religion. So especially for those who fully understands what is possible with the cloud and what benefit it brings. Actually, I had the chance lately to meet a couple of IT organizations that got lost along the cloud way. Instead of using the cloud as a tool to optimize the business, they use the business to optimize the cloud. Meaning the perfect cloud, anywhere, in any situation, became the goal. Such situations are very bad and they could be very damaging for the business itself. Except, of course, the cloud is your actual business. So let us not forget a couple of the rules when working with the cloud, especially as I said at the beginning, if you are cloud responsible or a cloud architect in a company. The cloud is not a purpose, it is a mean. We should never forget what is the purpose of our business, what is the mission and vision of our business, and we should always make distinction between the mean or the tools that support us, on the way to achieving our vision and to delivering or to enabling our mission. So it's not about cloud, it's about business. You should never forget, it's not really about the cloud. No matter how cloud is cool, how beautiful it can be, it's always about the business. We use the cloud to support the business, we don't use the business to support the cloud. In that context, we have to focus on helping business, not on having a perfect cloud. You will never have a perfect cloud. So you should always keep it simple. Use only what's really needed. And once again, and even then, keep it simple as possible. Keep it even simpler as possible. Use only what's really needed. So those are the tips. I know it's quite short, but those are the tips in the scope of positioning the cloud as a tactical means to support digitalization strategies. Now I'll try to give a few tips about integrating cloud architecture as a permanent part of enterprise architecture. I do suppose most of you have enterprise architectures in their companies. If you have enterprise architecture in your company, then you should definitely include cloud architecture as a core domain of your enterprise architecture. I know it's quite unconventional. So, and the most of the companies have cloud as addition to infrastructure domain, or as addition to infrastructure story of the enterprise architecture. However, from my point of view, to properly establish cloud in a specific organization, you should identify the cloud as a core domain, as a real separate core domain in your organization. So, for example, if you have let's assume that you have three main domains of your enterprise architecture, such as business, information, and technology and infrastructure, which we can which we can consider as horizontally oriented domains of your enterprise architecture, then you should consider cloud as a vertical domain in your enterprise architecture, as you see on the slide. Cloud basically goes through all these three domains. Because we can have business services that are delivered with the cloud. We could have information. We could have applications and data that are including technology and infrastructure as well, that are located in the cloud. So, if it's not possible for some reasons, then you should get the situation where the cloud is at least as a domain in the scope of technology infrastructure layer, is a domain in the scope of technology and infrastructure layer, or a domain of enterprise architecture, which you can as well see on the slide. However, the message is do include cloud architecture as a part of your enterprise architecture. It would be much more prominent, and it would be much more important. It would be seen as much more important in the scope of the whole enterprise. So what you need to do, when you include, what you need to do when you including cloud architecture as a part of enterprise architecture, is actually you have to map cloud services, for example, to business capabilities, business processes, applications, technologies, and everything. And every single enterprise architecture object that is relevant for specific cloud service. Why are you doing this? This will allow you to be able to support decision making at strategic and tactical levels. So you would be possible to provide top management dashboards and reports that include cloud as well. So and with these reports you will be able to support strategical decisions. So, and it would definitely establish cloud and provide to the cloud a better position in the company. It will provide to the cloud the better position in the company in the context of acceptance and in the context of importance as a concept. So this is sort of like tip from my point of view, where you should integrate cloud architecture as a permanent part of enterprise architecture, and I actually see this part or this activity as a quite important activity. So also what you should do is definitely to include cloud activities, cloud relevant activities into all enterprise architecture processes in your company. For example, if you have architecture fusion process, meaning if you have a process that supports selection and analysis of new technologies, of I don't know, new digital solutions. Let's say the enterprise architecture process is the process where you take a specific requirement for a new solution, or for a new digital solution, or for new technology, and you analyze what effect does it have on the current infrastructure, and how does it relate to the existing infrastructure in your company. Where you, for example, document existing architectures, where you define and develop future architectures, where you define requirements for your solutions. You should include cloud aspects in that story. One example, I provide one example in the presentation. So where you can see two parts of enterprise architecture process where cloud and the cloud relevant activities should be included. So it should be included definitely when you identify, for example, the requirements for the future solution. Because if you have for example, architecture principle that cloud, let's call that principle cloud first, you should always define in a specific requirement list that the solution, that the proposed new solution, technical solution or digital solution, must be able to be deployed on the cloud. The second aspect where it should be included is of course, so when you document existing enterprise architecture, and when you develop a future physical or technology architecture of proposed solution, or of new let's call it enterprise architecture object. So as I already said, you should include cloud as a core domain, or at least as a subdomain in the scope of technology and infrastructure layer into your enterprise architecture. Map every cloud service to any relevant enterprise architecture objects, such as capabilities, process, application, technology, etc. In that context, you will be able to support decision-making process at strategic and tactical levels in your company, and you will be able to provide appropriate reports to the high-level management, which will then consequently establish cloud as important part and an important story in your company. And then at the end, so include cloud activities into architecture fusion processes in your company. So how many time do I have? So let us now speak about the last tip in my today's presentation, and it is tip about how to derive cloud strategy from enterprise architecture strategy, and how to derive cloud transition strategy from the cloud strategy. This is the last tip, but not of course not least important tip. So there are few aspects that there are few tips. There are few aspects that we have to take into considerations when we are deriving cloud transition strategy from enterprise strategy. So one quite important tip is to make cloud strategy to develop a cloud strategy that fully fits with enterprise strategy and that fully supports enterprise strategy. So deriving cloud strategy from enterprise strategy has, from my point, three parts. The first part is to analyze. It's called analyze, and it includes analyzing enterprise strategy, analyzing cloud impact on enterprise strategy and IT, and deciding do you want to go cloud or not. So the second one is enable, this is actually cloud adoption strategy. So in the scope of this process, you scope and define framework, you implement and you plan implementation and migration, and you do actually adoption and migration. So and the last part is, of course, to operate the whole cloud. So which includes activities such as manage, monitor, and improve. So as we have limited amount of the time, so for the presentation, I'll focus only on the middle part of the process, namely enabling cloud adoption strategy and activities. And activities there. So let us speak about enabling adoption strategy. The first step in enabling cloud strategy is to define cloud scope and framework. This aspect includes activities such as defining framework, which then includes activities such as core cloud, definition of the core cloud architecture, definition of deployments models, definition of deployment or identification of the appropriate deployment destination, definition of cloud service architecture. So the questions are, should we go private, public, hybrid, or multi-cloud? Where do we want to deploy our cloud? In our own country, EU, for example, third countries, which zones, regions, etc. So, and how do our services look like? So, the second part is establishing the cloud governance. So we have to establish cloud working group, we have to establish cloud board, and of course we have to identify appropriate cloud architects. So, why are we doing that? We have to. The reasons are simple. We have to define who will lead transition, who will implement transition, and who will make specific decisions. The next part of cloud adoption strategy is actually implementation and migration planning, which includes activities such as cloud vendor provider selection, and activities in the scope of migration planning, such as analysis of the current state, analysis of the future state, defining transition architecture, defining and identifying of the work packages, of appropriate work packages, and implementation chronology definition and defining implementation chronology, of course. And the third step in the scope of cloud adoption strategy is to adapt and to migrate. So these include activities. This includes activities such as transition teams nomination, working packages assignments, technical transition, fusioning into existing processes. So this was the last part. This was the last part of my presentation, where I explained how to derive cloud strategy from enterprise architecture strategy and how to derive cloud transition strategy from cloud strategy. And of course, this was the last part of my presentation. Generally speaking, I really do hope you enjoyed my presentation, and you find some parts of my presentation useful and interesting for you. I provided contact information at the beginning of the presentation, so you are invited to contact me if you have any additional questions, and I will be happy to answer them if possible, of course. And that was all. I have to say this was my first experience in presenting online. So and this was a little bit challenging for me. So I really hope you enjoyed the conference and you find it useful. So I do hope you'll enjoy the rest of the conference, and that's all, folks.